everyone, and welcome back to the Wisdom by Harry YouTube channel. My name is Harry.
And I'm Mary. We're so excited to have you here today for another fascinating episode.
Okay, so you know how ChatGPT is like all the rage lately? Well, there's this new AI chatbot making waves, especially in the tech world, and it's called DeepSeek. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, DeepSeek, it's been generating quite a buzz lately for sure. I think what's really captured people's attention is, how it's both incredibly powerful, but also incredibly cost-effective at the same time.
Right, and it's open source too. We've got like a stack of articles here from tech sites like PC Gamer and Tom's Guide. And they really put both DeepSeek and ChatGPT through their paces with all sorts of like real-world prompts. So we thought, why not do a deep dive into this AI showdown and see what all the fuss is about?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think what's most intriguing is how DeepSeek stacks up against ChatGPT, which has kind of been the undisputed leader in this space for a while now. And some of these articles even suggest that DeepSeek might even be able to rival like the premium version of ChatGPT, which is pretty remarkable.
Absolutely. One thing that immediately jumped out at me was just how blazingly fast DeepSeek is. Like Tom's Guide had this challenge where they gave both AIs a classic train problem, the kind we have to figure out.
Yeah.
Where two trains traveling at different speeds will meet. DeepSeek solved it in a snap.
Yeah, but speed comes from DeepSeek's kind of unique architecture. They call it mixture of experts, and it's pretty fascinating. So essentially, DeepSeek has this massive neural network with like a staggering 671 billion parameters. But here's the really clever part. It doesn't actually use all of those parameters for every single task. Instead, it dynamically activates only the specific experts that are needed for that particular problem. So that makes it incredibly efficient, compared to something like ChatGPT, which basically uses its entire model for every single computation.
So it's like having a specialized team of AI experts ready to tackle different challenges instead of just one giant brain trying to do everything at once. That makes a lot of sense.
Precisely, yeah. And this specialized approach seems to be paying off, especially when it comes to the more technical tasks. There was this interesting post I saw on LinkedIn by a Samsung researcher, and they were talking about how DeepSeek actually managed to solve this really complex coding problem that completely stumped ChatGPT.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking serious coding jobs here. It sounds like DeepSeek is a real contender in the AI space. I'm really curious to see where this all leads, especially with the whole open source aspect of it.
Yeah, the open source nature of DeepSeek is another really key differentiator, I think. For developers and businesses, this is huge because it means they can not only access the technology at a significantly lower cost. I mean, we're talking like 50 cents a month versus $20 for ChatGPT. But they can also customize it. They can tweak it. And they can even contribute to its development. So that kind of community-driven approach can really accelerate innovation in ways we haven't seen.
For sure. Speaking of putting these AIs to the test, PC Gamer did this fun experiment where they challenged both DeepSeek and ChatGPT to build a gaming PC with a $1,000 budget. And get this, DeepSeek's build was actually judged to be better. And the judge was ChatGPT itself.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that says something.
Yeah.
It does speak to DeepSeek's ability to reason and make decisions based on a set of constraints.
Right. It's like it understood the concept of budgeting.
Yeah.
And trying to optimize performance within those limits. But here's the kicker. Neither AI actually came up with a build that was really that great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it seems like we're not quite at the point where we can fully hand over complex tasks like building a computer to AI just yet. But the fact that DeepSeek could even attempt this and produce something somewhat coherent is still pretty impressive.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what these AI will be capable of in the future. And you know what else is kind of funny? DeepSeek has this little quirk in its user interface where it'll actually pause for a few seconds, as if it's like thinking before giving you an answer. Of course, it's just a clever visual trick, but it does add this touch of personality.
It does. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Like, is it purely a design choice to manage user expectations, or is it like a subtle hint at the complex processes that are happening beneath the surface?
Right. And speaking of things happening beneath the surface, let's talk about some of the limitations of both DeepSeek and ChatGPT. I know we've been focusing on the positive so far.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that no technology is perfect. DeepSeek, for example, being developed in China, has to kind of navigate the complexities of government censorship. So there are certain topics that it's just gonna avoid discussing, particularly those deemed politically sensitive.
Yeah. I read about this one writer who actually figured out a way to outsmart DeepSeek censorship. and get it to answer questions it wasn't supposed to. It's pretty amusing.
Yeah, it highlights that ongoing tug-of-war between technology and regulation. And it's not just DeepSeek that faces these challenges. ChatGPT has also come under scrutiny, particularly from the FTC, for its data practices and the potential for bias in its responses.
So even though ChatGPT might not have the same kind of overt censorship concerns as DeepSeek, it's still grappling with its own set of ethical considerations. It seems like finding the right balance between innovation and responsibility is going to be a key challenge for all AI developers moving forward.
Absolutely. And I think that's something worth keeping in mind as we continue to explore the capabilities of these incredible technologies. The potential is vast, but so are the implications. It's an exciting and a somewhat daunting landscape to navigate.
Well said. And speaking of navigating this landscape, we've touched on how DeepSeek is surprisingly good at these complex tasks like coding and even attempting to build a PC. But are there any other areas where it really shines?
You know, one thing that consistently stands out in these articles is DeepSeek's prowess in logical reasoning and problem solving. It seems to excel at tasks that require kind of a step-by-step analytical approach. This makes it a particularly powerful tool for researchers, data analysts, and anyone who's working with complex systems.
That makes sense. And I'm curious, you mentioned DeepSeek uses model distillation and reinforcement learning during its training process. Can you explain a bit more about what that means and how it might contribute to its impressive performance?
Of course. So think of model distillation as a way of transferring knowledge from a larger, more complex AI model to a smaller, more efficient one. It's like distilling the essence of expertise. In DeepSeek's case, this means it's learned from some of the most advanced AI models out there and kind of inherited their strengths and insights. And then there's reinforcement learning, where the AI essentially learns through trial and error. It gets feedback and refines its responses over time. And this is crucial for tasks that require adaptation and creative problem solving.
So it's like DeepSeek has gone through this rigorous AI boot camp, learning from the best.
Yeah.
And constantly honing its skills through practice. That's incredible. But even all this impressive technology, I'm wondering if DeepSeek is actually easy to use. I mean, do you need to be like a coding whiz to get the most out of it?
That's a great question, and it's one that comes up a lot with AI tools. The answer is, it depends. While DeepSeek does have a user-friendly interface, to really unlock its full potential, you might need to delve into the world of prompt engineering. Have you heard of this?
Prompt engineering. It sounds a bit intimidating. Is that like having to learn a whole new programming language just to talk to the AI?
Not quite. It's more about learning how to communicate effectively with the AI. Think of it as crafting the perfect question. To get the best possible answer, you need to be clear, specific, and sometimes even creative in how you phrase your prompts to guide DeepSeek towards the information or solution that you're looking for.
So it's all about finding the right way to speak DeepSeek's language, so to speak. Are there any tips or tricks you could share for someone who's just starting out with prompt engineering? I'm sure our listeners would love to know.
Absolutely. One of the most common pitfalls I see is being too vague or general in your prompts. DeepSeek really needs clear instructions and context to understand what you're asking. So for example, instead of saying, write a poem about nature, you might say, write a sonnet about the feeling of walking through a forest in autumn, focusing on the colors and scents. The more specific you are, the better the results will be. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try different phrasings, add details, and just see what works best. For different tasks, there's a bit of an art to it, but it's also a lot of fun to discover what you can achieve with the right prompt.
Wow, that's really helpful. It sounds like prompt engineering is a skill that can be learned and refined over time. And with DeepSeek being open source, I imagine there's a whole community of people sharing tips and tricks.
You're exactly right. The open source community is a fantastic resource for learning and collaborating. On all things DeepSeek, you'll find forums, tutorials, and even shared libraries of prompts that you can adapt and use for your own projects.
That's fantastic. It really seems like DeepSeek has the potential to democratize access to powerful AI tools, putting them in the hands of not just big tech companies, but also individuals and smaller organizations.
Yeah.
But are there any concerns about this kind of open access? I mean, could DeepSeek be misused or even exploited by bad actors?
That's a valid question, and it's one that's being debated extensively in the AI community. The potential for misuse is certainly there with any powerful technology. However, Many argue that the benefits of open access actually outweigh the risks. The idea is that transparency and collaboration can actually help mitigate those risks because more people are able to scrutinize the technology, identify potential vulnerabilities, and contribute to making it safer and more robust.
They have a really interesting perspective. It seems like the future of AI is going to be shaped by this ongoing conversation about openness, accessibility, and responsibility. And I'm curious to see how DeepSeek, with its unique approach and capabilities, contributes to that conversation.
Me too. It's a fascinating time to be following the development of AI, and DeepSeek is definitely one to watch.
Absolutely.
Welcome back. I'm excited to dive into some real-world applications of DeepSeek and see how it fares against ChatGPT.
Me too. So what kind of tasks are we talking about here?
Well, in the previous part, we touched on DeepSeek's strengths in coding and problem solving. So we could look at how they handle tasks like generating code for specific functions or even debugging existing code.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. I've heard about AI being used for coding, but I'm curious to see how DeepSeek's approach kind of differs from ChatGPT's.
Exactly. And beyond coding, we could also explore their creative writing abilities. Maybe have them write different types of content, like a short story or a poem or even marketing copy.
Ooh, that would be fun. Imagine seeing how these AIs interpret different writing styles and genres.
Precisely. And it's not just about the end product, but also about understanding their creative process. We could analyze how they structure their narratives, how they use language, and even how they incorporate elements like humor or suspense.
I love that idea. It's like we're not just testing their abilities, but also getting a glimpse into their artificial minds.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so fascinating. We're exploring the boundaries of what AI can achieve, but also trying to understand how it thinks and learns.
Okay, I'm totally on board. So where do we start? Let's pick a task and see these AIs go head to head.
All right, how about we start with a coding challenge? Let's give both DeepSeek and ChatGPT the task of creating a simple web application. We can give them a basic set of requirements like a login page, a user profile section, and maybe a basic messaging feature.
Perfect. I'm already picturing the code flying across the screen as they work their magic.
It'll be interesting to see how they approach the task. DeepSeek, with its mixture of experts architecture, might be very efficient and produce very clean, streamlined code. ChatGPT, on the other hand, known for its vast knowledge base, might come up with a more feature-rich application, even if the code is a bit more complex.
Right. It's almost like two different coding philosophies clashing. DeepSeek, the minimalist, focused on efficiency, and ChatGPT, the maximalist, aiming for a richer user experience.
Precisely. And it's not just about the code itself, but also about how they document it, how they handle errors, and even how they optimize for performance. These are all crucial aspects of software development that will reveal a lot about their capabilities.
Okay, so we have our first challenge set. Let's feed those requirements into both DeepSeek and ChatGPT and see what they come up with.
Here we go. And while they're working, we can delve a bit deeper into their approaches to coding. DeepSeek, with its focus on model distillation and reinforcement learning, might be more adept at learning from existing code examples and adapting them to new situations.
So it's like they've studied the works of master coders and are now applying those lessons to their own creation.
Exactly. And ChatGPT, with its access to a massive data set of text and code, might be able to draw on a wider range of coding styles and techniques, potentially leading to more creative solutions.
Right. It's like they've absorbed the collective knowledge of the entire coding community.
It's remarkable, isn't it? And as they process our requirement and start generating code, it's almost like witnessing the birth of a new software application, albeit one created by artificial intelligence.
I know. It's both exciting and a little bit mind-boggling to think about. Okay, it looks like both DeepSeek and ChatGPT are starting to produce some output. Let's take a look.
Right. DeepSeek seems to be taking a very structured approach, breaking down the task into smaller modules and building them one by one. The code is very clean and well organized with clear comments and explanations.
It's like watching a master craftsman at work, meticulously putting each piece in place.
Indeed. And ChatGPT seems to be taking a more holistic approach, generating code for the entire application at once. The code is more complex, but it's also very comprehensive, addressing all of our requirements and even adding a few extra features that we didn't specify.
Wow, it's impressive how quickly they're both working. But I'm also noticing some key differences in their styles. DeepSeek seems to prioritize efficiency and simplicity, while ChatGPT seems to lean towards functionality and completeness.
Exactly. It's like they're representing two different schools of thought in software development. DeepSeek, the pragmatic engineer focused on building a solid foundation, and ChatGPT, the visionary architect aiming for a grand design.
I love that analogy. Really captures the essence of their approaches. But now the big question, which approach will ultimately be more effective? Will DeepSeek's streamlined code prove to be more robust and maintainable in the long run? Or will ChatGPT's feature-rich application win out in terms of user experience?
That's the million-dollar question. And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. It really depends on the specific needs of the project and the priorities of the developers. But what we can do is analyze their code, test their applications, and see how they perform in different scenarios. That will give us a better understanding of their strengths and weaknesses, and help us make more informed decisions about which AI tool might be the best fit for a particular task.
That sounds like a plan. So for our viewers who are eager to see the results of this coding showdown, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll put DeepSeek and ChatGPT's creations to the test and reveal which AI emerges victorious. Welcome back to the final part of our DeepSeek versus ChatGPT showdown. I'm really excited to see how these AI-powered web applications actually perform.
Me too.
Yeah.
We've seen how they both, DeepSeek and ChatGPT, approach the coding challenge, each with their own unique style and philosophy.
Right. DeepSeek was all about efficiency and clean code, while ChatGPT went for a more feature-rich approach. So let's fire up these apps and see what they're really made of.
All right, I've got DeepSeek's web app running right here. First impressions. The interface is really clean and intuitive, very user-friendly.
Yeah, and it's loading quickly. Everything feels very responsive.
Exactly, and the core functionality is all here. The login works seamlessly, the user profile section is well organized, and the messaging feature is basic but functional.
Really impressive. It's amazing to think that an AI built this entire application from scratch.
It really is. And the code, as we saw earlier, is remarkably well structured. It's easy to read, easy to understand, and potentially easy to modify if needed.
Okay, let's switch over to ChatGPT's creation. Wow, this interface is definitely more visually appealing. Lots of colors and animations.
Yeah, ChatGPT seems to have focused on creating a more engaging user experience, and it's packed with features, some of which we didn't even request.
Well, look at this. It's even got a built-in chatbot that greets you by name.
Impressive. ChatGPT definitely went above and beyond in terms of functionality. However, I am noticing a slight lag in performance. The app isn't quite as responsive as DeepSeek's.
Yeah, you're right. And navigating through the menus feels a bit clunkier. There's a lot going on visually.
It seems like ChatGPT's emphasis on features might have come at the cost of some performance optimization. Remember the code we looked at? It was more complex and perhaps a bit less efficient than DeepSeek's.
Right, that makes sense. So it's kind of a classic trade-off, efficiency versus features.
Exactly. And ultimately, the best choice depends on the specific use case. If you need a fast, reliable, and easily maintainable web application, DeepSeek's approach might be the winner. But if you're prioritizing a rich user experience with lots of bells and whistles, ChatGPT could be the way to go.
I'm honestly really impressed by both of these AIs. It's incredible how far this technology has come, but this was just one challenge, one specific task.
Absolutely. And the AI landscape is constantly evolving. New models, new architectures, and new capabilities are emerging all the time. It's a very exciting time to be following this field.
So what's the big takeaway for our listeners who are trying to make sense of all this AI buzz?
I think the key is to understand that AI is not a one-size-fits-all solution. There are different AI tools with different strengths and weaknesses. The best choice depends on your specific needs, your budget, and your technical expertise.
That's great advice. And I think our deep dive into DeepSeek and ChatGPT has provided a fantastic example of how to approach this decision-making process. We looked at their underlying technology, their coding styles, and their actual performance on a real-world task.
Exactly. And we saw that there's no clear winner. Both DeepSeek and ChatGPT have the potential to revolutionize the way we build software, create content, and solve problems. The future of AI is bright, and it's going to be fascinating to see how these tools continue to develop and shape our world.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of DeepSeek and ChatGPT. Be sure to check out the source articles linked in the description for more in-depth information.
And as always, we encourage you to share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. We love hearing from you.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world of AI.